Hello everyone and welcome back to our Shir and Dishu Ba'alacha. As I mentioned yesterday, I think it was, we're trying to push through to the end of Hilchas Eruvei Chatzeros. So hopefully this is the first of two shiurim that I will record today. We'll see if I can actually get to the second one. Hopefully I will. So we are continuing with Reish Nun Zayin Amud Beis, and we are up to Siman Shin Pei Ches. Din im loy ervu achatzeros yakad v'gam loy nishtatfu b'mavui u'boi sif echad. What is the halacha if the chatzeros that open up onto a mavui did not join in one common eruvei chatzeros, and they also did not make a shetufei mavuos? So in order for us to gain a proper understanding of what's going on over here, I think it would be good for me to give a little bit of a hakdama, a little bit of a preface. So the scenario that we're discussing over here is, we have a mavui. Let's say there are three chatzeros that open up onto the mavui. Now, besides these three chatzeros each one having a doorway that opens up onto the mavui, they also have doorways that link to each other. So the three chatzeros open up onto each other besides opening up onto the mavui. Now, the people who live in these chatzeros, they could each make their own eruvei chatzeros to allow transferring a keli sheshavas babayis in one of the chatzeros to its chatzer. So let's say chatzer A. Chatzer A has 20 houses in it. Those 20 houses could join together into an eruvei chatzeros. Now they'll be allowed to transfer from a house to the chatzer, from the chatzer to the house. The three chatzeros could also join in one common eruvei chatzeros because they're connected to each other. They have doorways connecting one to the other. If they join in one common eruvei chatzeros, now you'll be allowed to take a keli sheshavas babayis. Let's say you had a lawn chair that started out Shabbos in one of the houses of Chatzer A. If Chatzer A, Chatzer B, and Chatzer C joined in one common eruvei chatzeros, now you could take the lawn chair from the house in Chatzer A and you could bring it to the Chatzer of Chatzer C for the Pirkei Avos share on Shabbos afternoon because they joined in one common eruvei chatzeros. They also could create a shetufei mavuos. They want to be able to take a keli sheshavas babayis in one of the chatzeros. They want to be able to take a chair from inside a house in Chatzer B, and they want to be able to bring it out to the mavui. Or they want to take something from the mavui, and they want to bring it from the mavui through one of the chatzeros and then into a house. So for that, they could make a shetufei mavuos. So those are the three types of eruvin that could be made over here. You could make an eruvei chatzeros in each individual chatzer. The three chatzeros could merge into one common eruvei chatzeros, and all the chatzeros of the mavui could join and merge into a shetufei mavuos. Now, let's remember something that we learned yesterday. If this mavui only has these three chatzeros opening onto it, and the three chatzeros did make one common eruvei chatzeros, they no longer have to make a shetufei mavuos. Why? Because one of the mechanics of a shetufei mavuos, what a shetufei mavuos does is, each chatzer that opens up onto the mavui makes a contribution to the shituf. We take those three contributions, we put them together in one keli, and we place the shituf in one of the chatzeros. What does that do? We now say, instead of this mavui serving three disparate chatzeros, now the three chatzeros have been merged into one. Now the mavui is only serving one chatzer. Since the mavui is only serving one chatzer, so now we don't have a problem. We don't have the takanos chazal anymore that prevents us from transferring from the chatzer to the mavui. That's what a shetufei mavuos does. Well, if the three chatzeros that open up onto the mavui all merge into one common eruvei chatzeros, they already did the same thing. By merging into one common eruvei chatzeros, they made the three chatzeros into one chatzer. So why do they need a shituf? They no longer need a shituf. So if you merge into one common eruvei chatzeros, you dispose of the need to make a shetufei mavuos. Let's keep that in mind. Now, what was the title of this siman? Din im loy ervu achatzeros yachad. What is the halacha if all of the chatzeros that open up onto the mavui did not merge into one common eruvei chatzeros, v'gam loy nishtatfu b'mavui, nor did they make a shetufei mavuos? So you now have a mavui that's serving multiple chatzeros. The Chatzeros did not become one, not by merging into a common Eruv Chatzeros, and not by making a Shetufei Mevuos. So now, what's the halacha? What can you do? What can you not do? Says the Mechaber in Seif Aleph, which is the only Seif. Im loy ervu ha-Chatzeros yachad. If the Chatzeros that open up onto the Mavoi did not join into one common Eruv Chatzeros, v'gam loy nishtatfu b'Mavoi, and nor did they make a Shetufei Mevuos. So again, now you have a Mavoi that is serving multiple Chatzeros. Says the Mechaber, it's still mutter l'taltal b'chol ha-Mavoi. You're allowed to move around and carry inside the whole Mavoi kelim sheshavsu b'soichai, things, items that started out Shabbos in the Mavoi. Now, in a literal sense, what the Mechaber just said was, you did not make an Erev, you did not make a Shituf, you have a bench that started out Shabbos in the Mavoi, you should know you could pick up that bench and you could move it wherever you want in the Mavoi. Now, first of all, and the Mishnah Berurah is going to mention this, let's remember that in order for it to be mutter to be metaltal in a Mavoi, if you want to carry things in a Mavoi is an alleyway that's closed on three sides and is opened up onto the Rishus HaRabim. The Chachamim were mesakid that in order to be metaltal in such a Mavoi, you have to be mesakid the Mavoi with a lechi or a kaira. Either you have to have a beam going above the opening of the Mavoi, where the Mavoi opens up onto the Rishus HaRabim, or you have to have a lechi, you have to have a side post on one side of the opening where it goes to Rishus HaRabim. So the first thing we have to remember is, to be metaltal in this Mavoi, the Mavoi has to be mesukin. Okay, so the Mavoi is mesukin. Now you don't have a shituf and you don't have an eruv, but you have a Mavoi that's mesukin. You're allowed to move this bench that started out Shabbos anywhere in the Mavoi. But actually, what the Mechaber really means to say is, you're allowed to do far more than that. Not only are you allowed to move the bench inside the Mavoi anywhere you want, you could pick up the bench from the Mavoi and you could take it to any one of the Chatzeros that you want. You want to bring the bench from the Mavoi into Chatzer A? You can. You want to bring it from the Mavoi to Chatzer A and then to Chatzer B? You could do that too. You want to take a lawn chair from that started out Shabbos in Chatzer A and you want to bring it to the Mavoi? You could do that too. Because you don't need a shituf or an erev to be allowed to transfer something from a Mavoi to a Chatzer, from a Chatzer to a Mavoi. Because if you remember, we said earlier in, I forgot which Siman it is, believe it or not. 1 second, I'm sorry. It says Shin Ayin Beis. We said earlier in the beginning of Siman Shin Ayin Beis that Kol HaChatzeros V'Hagagin and the Mevuos also, these are all Rishus Achas Hein. They're all considered one type of Rishus. You don't need in a Eruv Chatzeros to be allowed to, let's say, carry a lawn chair from Chatzer A into Chatzer B. If it's a Keli Sheshavas B'Chatzer, if it started out Shabbos in Chatzer A, you're allowed to carry it from the Chatzer of Chatzer A to the Chatzer of Chatzer B, even if Chatzer A and Chatzer B do not have an Eruv Chatzeros connecting them. The same thing, you don't need a sheet of mevuos to take the lawn chair from Chatzer A to the Mavoi, or from the Mavoi to Chatzer A. That wasn't the Takanas Chazal. So that's what the Mechaber means when the Mechaber says, Mutter l'taltal b'chol ha-Mavoi. You could move around these kelim sheshavsu b'seichai, any keli that started out Shabbos in the Mavoi, or in one of the Chatzeros that open up onto the Mavoi, you can move it wherever you want, from the Chatzer to the Mavoi, from the Mavoi to the Chatzer, without a shituf and without an Eruv Chatzeros. Now, we're going to break here in the Mechaber for a moment, and let's go right into the Mishnah Berurah. The Mishnah Berurah is going to spell this out very nicely for us. Says the Mishnah Berurah first in Ois Katan Aleph, Im loy ervu ha-Chatzeros. The Mechaber said, we're talking about a scenario where the Chatzeros that open up onto the Mavoi did not join in a common Erev, and they also didn't make a Shituf. Ritzaynai loymar. What the Mechaber means to say is, Afim loy ervu. Even if they didn't make an Erev, and they didn't make a Shituf, it's still mutter to do this. And the Chavetz Chaim points out, the im ervu, if the three Chatzeros that open up onto this Mavoi joined in a common Erev, Hareyu Gamkein Kein Shituf Mavoi, that would accomplish the same exact thing as a Shetufei Mavuos. If all the Chatzeres that open up onto the Mavui also connect to each other, and by virtue of that, they join in a common Eruvei Chatzeres, that accomplishes the same thing as a Shituf. It merges them all into one Chatzer. Now the Mavui is only serving one Chatzer, and you don't need a Shituf. The Chabasimin HaKoinim, like we learned in the previous Siman. Ois Cotton Bays. What type of kalim are you allowed to move around from the mavi to the chutzner, from the chutzner to the mavi, even without a shituf and without a common eruvei chatzeros? Kalim sheshavsu b'soichai. Any kalim that started out Shabbos in the mavi, says the Chavetz Chaim. The same din applies. You're allowed to take, let's say, a chair that started out Shabbos in one of the chatzeros from the chatzar to the mavli. Kalim sheshavsu b'soichai, as long as it's a keli that started out in the chatzar. V'chein min hamavi lechatzar, and so too you can move a keli or any other item from the mavi to the chatzar if it started out Shabbos in the mavi. Uchidaleil b'simin shinayin beis sef aleph, like we saw previously in shinayin beis sef aleph, that the mavi, the chatzar, they're all one rishus when it comes to Shabbos, even without an erev or a shituf. The loitiktu chachamim shetufei mavuos, because the chachamim were not misakin the necessity for a shetufei mavuos. Ela lahatir lohaitzi lamavoi kelim sheshavsu babayis. When do you need a shituf? You only need a shituf if what you're trying to do is to take a keli sheshavas babayis. If you have a chair that started out Shabbos in one of the houses in one of the chatzerim, and now you want to take that chair from the house through the chutzner into the mavui, that's when you need a shetufei mavuos. But if the lawn chair started out Shabbos in the chutzner or in the mavui, and you want to move it from the chutzner to the mavui or from the mavui to the chutzner, you don't need a shita for that, and you don't need an erev for that. When it comes to the chatzeros and the mavui itself, there is no such takana answering that. Or rishus echadhu, the mavui and the chatzer are both considered one rishus. The mutal taltal mizelozeh, and it is completely mutter to transfer from one to the other as long as it's a keli sheshavas either in the mavui or in the chutzner. The keli has to have started out Shabbos either in the mavui or in the chutzner. It can't have started out Shabbos in the house. If it started out Shabbos in the chutzner or the mavui, you're allowed to move them back and forth without a shituf or without an erev. V'chein shavenheim gam bozeh, and they're also the same rishus in this context. The same way, if you have a lawn chair that started out Shabbos inside the chutzner, you're allowed to be metaltal it. You can move it around anywhere you want in the chutzner. Even if this chutzner did not make it a eruvei chatzeros, so you have a bungalow colony and you have a common chutzner and you have 20 units that open up onto the chutzner. If a lawn chair started out Shabbos in the chutzner, even if the bungalow colony neglected to make it a eruvei chatzeros, you could move the lawn chair around anywhere you want in the chutzner. You don't need a eruvei chatzeros for that. So too, if you have a keli that started out Shabbos in the mavui, you could move it anywhere you want in the mavui. You don't need a shita for that. Even if the bnei chatzeros did not make a shetufei mavuos. Now the Chavetz Chaim just reminds us, upashut, and it's simple. This is obvious. Let's remember that the aleph bays, the first thing that you need in order to be able to carry inside a mavui is that the mavui has to be mesukin. Now, like we learned, anytime you have a rishus that's surrounded on three sides and it opens up onto a rishus harabim, so a mavui is an alley that's closed on three sides, and on its fourth side it opens up onto rishus harabim. Anytime you have such a property, in order to be allowed to carry inside that enclosed area, the open side that opens up onto the rishus harabim has to be mesukin. It needs a takana. So when it comes to a mavui, what's the takana? In order to be allowed to carry in a mavui, so on the fourth side, on the open side, either you need a kaira, you need a beam going across on top of the opening, or you need a lechi, you need a side post on one side of the opening. If the mavui is not mesukin, then a shetufei mavuos is not going to help you. You're not going to be allowed to carry in the mavui. You want to be allowed to carry in the mavui, you need a lechi or a kaira at the opening. Okay. Ois cotton gimel. This is true. It's going to be mutter to transfer from the mavli to the chutzner, from the chutzner to the mavli, any keli that started out Shabbos either in the mavli or in the chutzner. Oh, actually, I didn't say this inside yet. Let's go to the second line of the mechaber. This halacha that you're allowed to transfer from the mavli to the chutzner, from the chutzner to the mavli, a keli sheshavas either in the mavli or in the chutzner, without the neruva chatzeres and without a shetufim avuos. This is true. Bein ervu chatzeres im habotim, whether the individual chatzeres, each made in a ruve chatzeres to allow transferring from their houses to their chutzner, bein loy ervu, or whether they did not make their own eruv chatzeres. So the halacha that you're allowed to transfer from the mavli to the chutzner, from the chutzner to the mavli, that applies across the board. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant whether the individual chatzeros made their own eruv chatzeros, so that it's mutter for them to take a keli sheshavas babayis from the bias to the chutzner. Now, why would you think that should matter? The reason is very simple. Let's say you have chutzner A opens up onto the mavli. Chutzner A has 20 houses in it. Let's say they made an eruv chatzeros. Okay, they made an eruv chatzeros. Now, anybody who lives in any of those houses is allowed to take a lawn chair that started out Shabbos in their house, and they're allowed to put it in the chutzner. Okay, so now it's Shabbos afternoon at 4 o'clock. Shabbos afternoon at 4 o'clock, there's a lawn chair in the chutzner. Where did this lawn chair come from? This lawn chair came from one of the houses on Shabbos. This lawn chair started out Shabbos in one of the houses, and the owner of that house decided to take the lawn chair out of the house and bring it into the chutzner for the Pirkei Avos that took place at 2 o'clock. So now, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, on Shabbos afternoon, there is a keli sheshavas babayis. There's a lawn chair that started out Shabbos in the house, and where is it located now? It's located in the chutzner. Now that's 100% mutter. So far, everything is fine. Now, this is happening in chutzner A. In this mavui, there's also chutzner B and chutzner C. And they didn't make a shetufei mavuos, and chutzner A, chutzner B, and chutzner C did not make a joint eruv chatzeros. We said the halacha is, even without a shituf, and even without a common eruv chatzeros, you're allowed to take something from the chutzner and bring it to the mavli. Okay, so now Yankel is going to go to chutzner A, and he sees a lawn chair in chutzner A. He's going to pick it up, and he's going to bring it to the mavli. Someone is going to tap him on the shoulder and say, hey, wait a second, you're not allowed to do that. We didn't make a shetufei mavuos. Yankel is going to say, so what? I'm taking something from a chutzner, and I'm bringing it to a mavli. I don't need a shetufei mavuos for that. Now, on face value, he's right. That's the halacha that we just learned. The halacha we just learned is, you don't need an eruv, you don't need a shituf, in order to transfer from the mavli to the chutzner, from the chutzner to the mavli. But what's the key? It's only mutter to do that with a keli sheshavas b'soichai. It has to be something that started out Shabbos in the mavli or in the chutzner. So, the chair that's sitting next to this lawn chair, that started out Shabbos in chutzner A, that chair, Yankel is allowed to move from the chutzner to the mavli. But this lawn chair, that's a keli sheshavas babayis, this lawn chair started out Shabbos in the house in chutzner A, this lawn chair you're not allowed to move to the mavli, unless you have a shetufei mavuos and a eruv chatzeros. So here's where we might think that there should be a difference. Maybe we would say, if the individual chatzeros made in eruv chatzeros, so that they're allowed to take their lawn chair on Shabbos that started out Shabbos in the house, they're allowed to take it from the house to the chutzner, then maybe we should say it's usher to transfer from the chutzner to the mavli without a shituf. Because now you have a situation where in the chutzner you have a mix of kalim. In the chutzner, you have some kalim sheshavsu b'chutzner that you're allowed to move to the mavli, and you have some kalim sheshavsu b'bayis that you're not allowed to move to the chutzner. So maybe in such a case, we should make a gzera, and we should say, oh, If the individual chotzer made an eruv chatzeros, so now you have kelim sheshavsu babayis in the chotzer, now you're not allowed to take anything from the chotzer to the mavli without a shituf. Because if we're going to allow you to take something from the chotzer to the mavli without a shituf, you might come to take a keli sheshavas babayis to the mavli. Maybe the only time we'll say that it's mutter to take something from the chotzer to the mavli without a shituf is if the individual chatzeros did not make an eruv chatzeros. If the individual chatzeros did not make an eruv chatzeros, so then I don't have to worry that on Shabbos there's a keli sheshavas babayis in the chotzer. How did it get there? If a lawn chair started out Shabbos in the house in chotzer A, it can't get to the chotzer in chotzer A. You're not allowed to move it from the house to the chotzer without an eruv chatzeros. So if the individual chatzeros did not make eruv chatzeros, so then I'll say, okay, even without a shituf, you could take kalim from the chotzer, bring them to the mavli, because why not? There's no kalim sheshavsu babayis in the chatzeros. But if the individual chatzeros did make it a eruv chatzeros, maybe then it should be aser, because now you have kalim sheshavsu babayis in the individual chatzeros, and you might come to move them into the mavli. And what the Mechaber is telling me is that no, we don't make such a takana. Bein ervu chatzeros im abatim, bein loy ervu, whether the individual chatzeros made their own eruv chatzeros or they did not, it's always mutter to take kalim sheshavsu b'chotzer or b'mavli from the chotzer to the mavli, from the mavli to the chotzer, and we're not afraid that you might come to take a keli sheshavas babayis from the chotzer to the mavli. Now, why don't we worry about that? Maybe the reason we don't worry about that is because let's remember, these are all Isurei D'Rabbanan. These are not Isurei D'Oraisa over here. This whole thing is Isurei D'Rabbanan, and the Chazal decided not to push the Gzeira that far. Okay, let's see the Mishnah Berurah Ois Katan Gimel. Bein Ervu Chatzeros, this halachi is true, whether the individual Chatzeros made eruv Chatzeros or not. And what's the point? Like I just spoke out, the Mitzuyin Klei Abayis B'Chatzer. If the individual chatzeros made eruv chatzeros, then you have kelim sheshavsu babayis in the chotzer, and that could be problematic. V'shayich lemigzar, you could hear it would make sense to make a gzera dilma ase lafuke klei abayis lamavli, that if we allow you to take items from the chotzer to the mavli, you might come to take a keli sheshavas babayis from the chotzer to the mavli. That would be a problem. Still in all, even though you have this potential risk, the halacha is that it's mutter. Now, just to be clear, what's mutter? It's mutter to take a keli sheshavas b'chotzer or a keli sheshavas b'mavli from the chotzer to the mavli, from the mavli to the chotzer. It's not mutter to take the keli sheshavas babayis. So that lawn chair that started out Shabbos in the house in chotzer A, you're not allowed to take that from chotzer A to the mavli without a shita for an erev. That's not mutter. What's mutter is to take the chair that's next to it that started out Shabbos in the chotzer. That you're allowed to take without a shita for an erev. That is the first opinion brought down by the Mechaber. That's a more lenient opinion. However, let's go back to the second line in the Mechaber, where he brings down a more stringent opinion. Ulaharav Rabbeinu Moshe Bar Maimon, according to the Rambam, Davka kishalo ervu chatzeros im habotim. This halacha that you could transfer from the chotzer to the mavli, from the mavli to the chotzer, without a shituf and without an erev, is only when the individual chatzeros did not make eruv chatzeros. Avol im ervu chatzeros im habatim, but if the individual chatzeros made their own eruv chatzeros, so now it's mutter for them to transfer from their houses to their chotzer. Ein metaltalin b'mavli ela ba'arba amos. Now you're only allowed to carry in this mavli within 4 amos. Forget transferring from the chotzer to the mavli, from the mavli to the chotzer. You're not even allowed to be metaltal in the mavli more than dalet amos. Now the mavli reverts back to the din of a carmelis, according to the Rambam, where it's usher to carry more than dalet amos. Now, what's the reason for this Rambam? Why does the Rambam say this? So the truth is that what this is based on is a halacha that I mentioned earlier. Let's remember, midaraisa, we paskin that midaraisa, an area that is surrounded on 3 sides by mechitzas, is a rishus hayachid midaraisa. However, we saw back in Siman Shin Samach Gimel that whenever you have an area that's surrounded on 3 sides, that opens up onto a Rishus Harabim, you're not allowed to carry more than Daled Amas inside that area unless the opening where it opens up to Rishus Harabim is Misukin. Now, what type of tikkun do you need? In Shin Samach Gimel we learned that depends on the type of area that we're talking about. It depends how private the area is. If the area that we're talking about is a chutzner is a more private type of area. Let's remember something that we've said many times. I've told you many times that in the time of the Mishnah and the time of the Gemara, the chutzner was an area that was used l'tashmishay habayis. You did cooking and baking in the chutzner. You did laundry in the chutzner. So the chutzner was a very heavily used area. So it kind of has more. You're used to you doing all sorts of shimush in the chutzner. You're very used to using the chutzner. Now, in order to close off, so to speak, the open side of that chutzner, you need something more. Right? We said, even though this area is enclosed on three sides, in order to be mater tiltal in this area, we need to somehow close off the fourth side. The fourth side needs a tikkun. It needs some kind of closure. Well, a chutzner, which is more of a private type of area, needs a higher level of closure on the fourth side. So in Shin Samach Gimel we said, if you have a chutzner closed on three sides that opens up onto a Rishus Harabim, on the fourth side you need either a pas arba, either a board of 4 tvachim, or you need 2 lechis, one on each side. Then you're allowed to carry more than Daled Amas in the chutzner. A mavui, which by nature is a more public area, requires less of a closure on the fourth side. So what does a mavui need? A mavui needs either a kaira, either a beam going across the top of the opening, or one lechi on one side. And that's enough to be matir tiltal more than Daled Amas in the mavui. Over here, the Rambam says an interesting thing. Over here, the Rambam says, in our scenario, what do you have? You have a mavui that has 3 chatzeros opened onto it. Says the Rambam, if in each individual chatzer they made their own eruve chatzeros and they merged all of their houses into one, so now the Rambam says a very interesting thing. He says, by merging all of the houses in the chatzer into one bias, the chatzer gets a din of a bias. If all 3 chatzeros that open up onto the mavui, each one made their own individual eruve chatzeros in their chatzer, so now each chatzer has a din of a bias, and now we look at this mavui not as a mavui, but as a chatzer that has 3 batim opening up onto it. Now I'm not going to get into the logic of the Rambam, but that's what the Rambam holds. The Rambam holds that when you made an eruve chatzeros in your chatzer, so now it all becomes one bias, and now the mavui is no longer a mavui, now the mavui is a chatzer. So now this mavui is not a mavui that has 3 chatzeros opening onto it, it's a chatzer that has 3 batim opening onto it. Now, what did we just say before? A mavui tiltal is mutter more than Daled Amas with 1 lechi or a kaira. But a chatzer needs a pas dalid or 2 lechis. That's where this halacha that the Mechaber brings down comes from. The Mechaber is saying, according to the Rambam, if each one of the 3 chatzeros that open onto the mavui made its own individual eruve chatzeros, now the mavui gets a din of a chatzer, and now tiltal is aser more than Daled Amas unless you have either 2 lechis or a pas dalid at the opening from the mavui to the Rishus Harabim. But with a kaira or a lechi alone, tiltal is going to be aser more than Daled Amas. We don't paskin like this Rambam. Let's take a look at the Mishnah Berurah. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Ois Katan Dalid, Ula HaRambam, V'la halacha naktinan kedei Rishona, halacha l'maisa, we follow the first, more lenient opinion in the Shulchan Aruch, V'afilu HaRambam, but even according to the Rambam, when is tiltal aser more than Daled Amas in this mavui? Dafka kisha mavui musuki bel besukin belechi v'kaira. That's when the only tikkun that the mavui has at its opening is a lechi or a kaira. Avalimu mesukin mitzuras ha-pesach. But if the opening of the mavui to the Rishus Harabim would actually have a tzuras ha-pesach, or I think if it would have two lechis, or if it would have a pas dalid, gamel didei mutter bekulai, then even the Rambam would agree that tiltul would be mutter more than dalid amas. Okay, that was Siman Shin Peches. Now let's go to Siman Shin Petes. Eino Yehudi. What's the halacha if you have a non-Jew? Sheyesh lo chaloin pasuach lebika oy lekarpef, who lives in a house that has a window or some other type of opening that goes from the back of his house or the side of his house out to a bika, out to a plain, a valley, or to a karpef, to an enclosed some kind of storage yard. Uboy sif echad, and in this siman we have one sif. Now, the scenario that the Mechaber is discussing over here is as follows. You have a mavui. So let's remember, the mavui is this alleyway. The alleyway opens up, I'm going to say, onto 3 chatzeros. Regular, normal chatzeros. In each chatzer, maybe you have 20 units of Yidden living there. Now, there is also a house that opens up directly onto the mavui. Or maybe this house has its own small little chutzner. I think to get away from a problem that we'll mention from the Chazon Ish, let's keep it simple. Let's say that the house opens up directly onto the mavui. There's no chutzner involved. Instead of being set back off the mavui with a chutzner with maybe multiple houses, this house opens up directly onto the mavui. And in this house lives a non-Jew. Now normally we would have a problem over here. Normally we would say you have multiple chatzeros opening up onto a mavui, you need a shetufei mavuos. Now you have a non-Jew over here, you have to be masker rishus from the non-Jew. But we have an interesting scenario. The non-Jew's house has a back door, and the back door opens up onto some kind of uninhabited area. It opens up onto a valley, onto a bika, or it opens up onto a big storage yard in the back. What's the halacha then? How does that back door affect the halacha? Says the Mechaber. Eino Yehudi hadar b'mavui. You have a non-Jew who lives in a house that opens up onto the mavui. V'yesh lo chaloi nachorei beisai, and he has a window or some other type of opening, certainly if he has a full-fledged door. But even if he has a relatively small window, that's daled al daled. V'yesh lo chaloi nachorei beisai, pasuach lebika oy lekarpef. He has some kind of window or small opening in the back of his house that opens up onto this bika or onto this karpef. Even if that opening that he has is very small, it's only 4 tvachim by 4 tvachim, this non-Jew does not aser on the other residents of the mavui. They don't have to worry about him. They could make a shetufei b'vuos, and they could totally ignore the non-Jew. Afilu maknisu moitzi gemalim ukaroinois derech hamavui kol hayom. Even if this non-Jew really uses the opening to the mavui, he uses it all the time. You always see him moving things back and forth through the mavui. So he parks his wagon in the mavui, he takes his goods out of his house onto the mavui, and he uses the mavui. He goes from the mavui out to the Rishus HaRabim. He comes in from the Rishus HaRabim into the mavui and then into his house. So he actually uses the entranceway, the mavui. He uses it all the time. Still, he doesn't aser on the other b'nei mavui. Why? Shechafetz yoser ba'oisai shepasuach loi ma'achorav levadoi. Because we say that to the mind of the non-Jew, the main opening of his house is the back door that goes to the bika or the karpef. Now, it's very interesting, and I love pointing these kind of things out because it just shows you how the Rishonim, how they moved from the Gemara to the Halacha. There's 2 key phrases over here that very simply could have been glossed over in the Mechaber. Shechafetz yoser, because the non-Jew likes more, ba'oisai shepasuach loi me'achorav, his back door that opens up onto the bika or the karpef, levadoi, alone. Now what does that mean? That comes from the lashon of the Gemara. The lashon of the Gemara is bepischa de mechadlei bahahi nichalei. The non-Jew likes the opening de mechadlei. The mechadlei means it's exclusive to him. this non-Jew lives in this mavui, and out of everybody else that lives in the mavui, only he has an opening that goes to the bika or to the karpef. Therefore, the Gemara says, hey, the non-Jew, he likes his private, exclusive opening onto his exclusive backyard. He's got this big backyard, he's got this big valley that his house opens up onto, or his big karpef that his house opens onto. So you know what? He's got his private exclusive opening to a big open area. It's true, he uses the mavui all the time also, but if you ask the non-Jew which exit from his house is his favorite one, we assume he's going to say, my exclusive back door that opens exclusively up for me onto the bika or the karpef. And now comes the next phrase in the Mechaber, sheyesh loy avir. Why does he like it so much? Because he's got plenty of space back there. So there's two factors. Factor number one, it's exclusive to him. Factor number two, he's got more space out there in the back than he does in the mavui. So he's got big, wide open private space in the back, and in the front he's got a public mavui that he's got to share with everybody. So which one is more special to him? Which one is his ikr? Which one is his favorite? It's the back door. That, sheyesh le'aver, comes from a Rashi. Rashi in Eruvin, the lashon of Rashi is, de'ika avira tfei mimavui. So what the Mechaber did over here was, he put together a line from the Gemara and a line from Rashi. The Gemara says that the point is that the back is exclusive to the non-Jew. Rashi says the point is the ikavir tvei. So comes along the Mechaber and he writes the shechafetz yaiser ba'isai shepasuach loy me'acharav levadoi, alone. That's the Gemara. Sheyesh loy avir. That's the Rashi. So here you get a glimpse for how we move from the sugya in the Gemara, la suke shmaitza liba de hilchasa, to take it through to the Gemara. Now that we say that in the mind of the non-Jew, the ikr is the back door that goes to the bika or the karpef, they have a pischai lamavli kamay she'ena rogel she'ena iser. So now, how do we look at this scenario? We look at this, it's similar to what we had earlier. Let's say you have a chutzner that opens up onto two mavuos, and the people from that chutzner always use one of the mavuos, and they don't use the other mavui. So we said then that he asers on the mavui that he always uses. He doesn't aser on the mavui that he doesn't use. So too over here the Mechaber says, this non-Jew has a favorite exit in the back to the bika or the karpef. That's the one that counts. The one that opens to the mavui, that's like an opening she'ena rogel. That's something he's not accustomed to using. So he doesn't aser on the bnei mavui. Let's stop over here for a second, and let's go into the Mishnah Berurah's Katan Aleph. V'yesh loy chaloin. The words of the Mechaber was, not that he has a Pesach, not that he has a doorway in the back, he has a chaloin, a window. Says the Chavetz Chaim, v'chol shekeinim Pesach gomor. Certainly if he has a full-fledged door going out to the back, certainly this halacha is true. Ice cutting bays, derech hamavui. We said this halacha is true even if we see the non-Jew using the mavui all the time. Ritzayne loymar, derech hapesach hapasuach lamavui. Even if he uses the doorway from his house onto the mavui all the time, still we say that that's not the ikr by him. Ice cutting gimel, kamoisha ein a ragel. Now that doorway is like a doorway that he's not accustomed to use, because we say his favorite is the back door. Ritzayne loymar, kamay chatzar hapasuach l'shtei mavuos. This is like the case of the chatzar that opens up onto two mavuos. Ube pesach echad ein a ragel latzeis v'lavai derech by lamavui. And the chatzar is not accustomed to using one of the mavuos. Ein oiser al oisei mavui. So we said that chatzar doesn't answer on that mavui that they're not accustomed to using. Uchid dela'el b'simin shin pevav siftes. Now let's go back into the Mechaber. Now the Mechaber says, by me it's the fourth line down. It's right by the asterisk for the Bir Halacha. For who sheyesh babika oy bekarpef yoiser misasayim. But the Mechaber gives one caveat. When is this true? That we say the non-Jew doesn't aser, because the most important opening to him is the back door that opens to the bika or the karpef. That's when this bika or this karpef is large, when it's yoiser misasayim, if it's greater than a sasayim. Avolim ein bayel sasayim, if it's relatively small, then katanhu, then this is considered a small yard, v'loi nichalei bei. Then the non-Jew is not going to give preference to that backyard, because then it's small, and then this halacha will not apply. Says the Mishnah Berurah is cotton dalet, cotton uvalei nichalei, ubayfen zeh, and in such a case, afilu haya pesach gadol pasuach lehen. Now, even if the non-Jew would have a really big patio door going out the back to the karpef or to the bika, since it's smaller than a beis hasayim, we say that the non-Jew is not going to give preference to that opening. That will not have the effect of being mavatal, the opening onto the mavli. And now the non-Jew will aser on the bnei amavli. However, says the Chavetz Chaim, this is only true that the non-Jew is now problematic because his back area is smaller than a beis hasayim. That's only true if he really does use the opening to the mavli more than the backyard. But let's say he uses the opening to the backyard more than he uses the opening to the mavli, even though the karpef or the bika is less than a beis hasayim. Then he still doesn't aser on the bnei amavli, because then he has two openings. He's rugil in one, he's not rugil in the other. He's rugil in the back door, he's not rugil in the front door to the mavli. So he doesn't aser on the bnei amavli, even though the back is small. The only time this is true is if the facts on the ground are that he's more rugil in the front door. So then it depends. If the back is bigger than a beis hasayim, so then we say his favorite doorway is the back door. I don't care that he's more rugil in the front door. He still gives preference to the back door. That's the one he likes best. Therefore, he doesn't aser on the bnei amavli. But if it's smaller than a beis hasayim, so if he uses the front door more, so then he asers on the bnei amavli. But if he doesn't use the front door more, if he uses the back door more, then, says the Mishnah Berurah, he does not aser. Says the Mechaber Weiter. This so far we were talking about a non-Jew. Now says the Mechaber. By me it's 4 lines off the bottom. V'Yisrael sheyesh lai pesach lemavli. Let's say you have a Yiddish house that has a doorway onto the mavli. Pesach me'acharev lekarpef. So the same scenario, but now it's a Yid instead of being a non-Jew. He has a back door that goes onto the karpef. V'shachach v'loi erav. And he did not join the Erev of the Shituf. Im ha-karpef yoiser misasayim. Then, if the karpef in the back is greater than a beis hasayim, oiser. See, by a non-Jew, it's quite the by a Jew, it's quite the opposite. If a Jew lives in this house that has a back door that opens up onto a karpef, then if the karpef is bigger than a beis hasayim, then the Yid does aser on the rest of the bnei amavli. Why? Because for a Yid, a back area that's a karpef that's yoiser mi beis hasayim is a problem. Let's remember what we learned. Karpef yoiser mi beis hasayim is a karmelis. You're not allowed to carry more than dalar amis in a karpef yoiser mi beis hasayim shaloi hukaf ledira. So if a Yid has a house that opens up onto a karpef in the back that's yoiser mi beis hasayim shaloi hukaf ledira, he can't use it. He can't be metaltal in there more than dalar amis. So now his front door that opens up to the mavli is the ikar. So he's going to aser on the other bnei amavli. What if the karpef that's in the back is less than a beis hasayim? Well, the Mishnah Berurah is going to say, if there's a Yid living in the house and the back door opens up onto a karpef that's less than a beis hasayim, then we could say that his main opening is the back door. You see, by a non-Jew, we said that the back has to be bigger than a beis hasayim. If it's less than a beis hasayim, the guy doesn't have enough space. He doesn't like that opening. But by a Yid, a backyard that's less than a beis hasayim is chashuv. If it's bigger than a beis hasayim, he can't use it. It's a karmelis. If it's smaller than a beis hasayim, it's chashuv, and he likes it even though it's small. Why? Because a Yid doesn't need a lot of space on Shabbos. He's not carrying packages in and out. A non-Jew needs a lot of room. He's working with his animals. He's transferring packages. A Yid on Shabbos is taking it easy. So he's not doing any of this. He's going outside to the backyard to learn Daf Yomi. So if a Yid lives in a house with a back door, if it opens up onto less than a beis hasayim, we could say that his favorite door is the back door, and we could say he doesn't aser on the bnei amavli. If it's bigger than a beis hasayim, then the backyard is a karmelis. He can't use it. Then he is going to aser. By a goy, it's fakert. If it's bigger than a Beis Hasayim, the Yid can't use it because it's a Karmelis. So he doesn't separate himself from the Mavli. Let's stop here a second and jump into the Mishnah Berurah. Ois Katan Hey, She'ena Royaloi. If it's bigger than a Beis Hasayim, it's not usable for the Yid. Shehu Karmelis, because it is a din of a Karmelis. Vein Metaltalin by Ela B'Seich Arba Amos, and you're only allowed to carry Arba Amos in this Karmelis. Contrast that to the front door that opens up onto a Mavli, where the Yid's allowed to carry everything he wants. So certainly he's going to like the Mavli entrance better, and he's going to Aser on the other Bnei Mavli. But by a Yid, if the back door opens up onto a karpef that's small, it's a Beis Hasayim or less, Kevin the mutal taltal b'soichai, since he's allowed to carry in it because it's not a karmelis, nichale beitvei. Now we could say that he likes it. Even though we said by a non-Jew, if the back area is smaller than a Beis Hasayim, the non-Jew doesn't like it, so his front door becomes an ikar. Legabi Yisrael nafish. By a Yid, it doesn't work that way. By a Yid, a back area, by a Yid, a back area, even if it's less than a Sasayim, it is chashuv. Why? He's not carrying big things. So it's enough. And he has a more pleasant, usable space in the back than he has in the front. So his favorite doorway could become the back door. Now let's go back into the Mechaber. 3 lines from the bottom near the end. Let's say the Yid lives in this house with the front door to the Mavli and the back door to the Karpef, and the Karpef in the back is bigger than a Beis Hasayim, which we said now it's a problem. Now the Yid doesn't like the back because now it's a Karmelista back. But if that area that's bigger than a Beis Hasayim in the back was hukaf ledira, afilu yoser misasayim eina yoser. Now, even if it's bigger than a sasayim, he doesn't aser on the bnei amavli. Why? Because now, even though the back is bigger than a Beis Hasayim, since it's hukaf ledira, he's allowed to use it. It's not a karmelis. So now he likes the back better than the front, and he doesn't aser. Kevin cheroiloi eina yoser. He doesn't aser the bnei amavli because now he could use it. However, says the Mechaber, the Yesh Mishaimar, there is another opinion. This is Das HaTaisvis. This is the Shita of Taisvis. The Yesh Mishaimar. There is another opinion that says the Adarabba, that it works the other way. Im Hukaf Ladira, if the back area is Hukaf Ladira, Afilu Beis Hasayim Oiser. Even if it's a Beis Hasayim, even if it's small, if it's Hukaf Ladira, it's going to Aser. Normally we said by a Yid, if the back is small, he likes the back better than the front, because he doesn't need a big area, and it's not a karmelis. Here we have an opinion that says, if the back is hukaf ledira, then even if the back is small, which normally we say is maybe a mila for a Yid, it's not a mila. Then he doesn't like the back, and he wants the front, and he's going to asa on the bnei amavli. Why? Shekevan shehukaf ledira, because since the back is enclosed for dira purposes, ain by avir, it's not a big, wide, open backyard. Once it's hukaf ledira, that means you're storing things there, you're using things there. So now it's not this nice open area that you could go and use. Now it's a dira area. So he doesn't want it so much that you could say that because he has this back area, he gives up the door to the mavli and he shouldn't aser on the bnei mavli. Says the Mishnah Berurah is cut vav yesh mishaimer hu das Taisus lavad. This is a das yichida. This is just the opinion of Taisvis. The svir lahu, they hold the mukav ledira, that when the back area is enclosed for dira purposes, garatvei, that makes a problem. That makes it worse. Kevin de ein by aver kol kach, because now it's not an air reusable place. Why didn't the Mechaber say it this way? If it's hukaf ledira, even if it's a Beis Hasayim. Even though you would think that Beis Hasayim is worse, what's Taisus saying? Taisus is saying that if it's hukaf ledira, he doesn't like it because it's not an air reusable area. Well, then if it's small, that's another reason why he doesn't like it. So what do you mean afilu? Afilu sounds like even though it's small, which is a Maila, which should make more of a reason why he does like it. Since it's Hukah Ladira, he doesn't like it. But according to Taisvis, the fact that it's small should also be a problem. So what's the afilu? Mikol makan nakat hachi. Still in all, we say afilu. Hayil de kishaloy hukaf ladira beis asayim adif tvei min yoisemi beis asayim. When it's not hukaf ladira, so the bigger it is, the smaller it is, the better, right? Because it's small. So if it's small, you don't have a problem that it's a kamelis. That's the afilu. The afilu is, even though it's a beis asayim, and therefore it's not a kamelis, right? Therefore it's usable, so maybe he likes it better. No, since it's Hukav Ladira, he doesn't like it better, because now it's not an air reusable space. Lakach kama de Hukav Ladira, Oyser afilu beis asayim. For hu hadin, Yoiser mis asayim. That concludes Siman Shin Pei Tes. Like I said earlier, I'll try to post another share going a little bit further later today. We'll see. Be'ezras Hashem, we'll see if I can get to it. Okay, counting down the days to see you live soon. Be well.